dumps. Big, massive dumps.
There's insanity in the control room. Who's got a hammer?
Please clap.
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever. Out in the nation, Waldorf Nation, we got the memes, we got the simplest memes, we got the realest memes on the internet here. Welcome to the show. It's Friday. I'm fired up. I'm in a little bit of a mood, so we're gonna dive into it. Boy, do we have some interesting stories to go over today. We got Virginia Thomas. We got Jeff Fortenberry making an appearance again. The Fortenberry saga continues. Or has it come to an end? Interesting. We got Ben Shapiro taking on Disney. Oh no. Putin defending JK Rowling. What is going on here? This is some weird stuff. We have the Freedom Convoy. And other things. So we got a lot of show for you all today. And so we're going to have to dive into it. So let's do it. Before we do, please like and share the stream. Very, very important that you do so. Helps us out. As always, we're going to need your help more than anything. All right. That said, let's do it. It appears that Virginia Thomas, the wife of conservative Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, has sent some text messages. Some interesting text messages to Mark Meadows, who is, of course, Donald Trump's former chief of staff, and these were related to overturning the 2020 election. Of course they are. So now this is a batch of text messages, about 29, that were obtained by the Washington Post and CBS News. And they detail how Thomas was pressuring the White House to essentially steal the election from Joe Biden, along, of course, with Donald Trump. So now Virginia Thomas goes by Ginny, whatever. I don't really care. But I'm going to read some of those messages, and we're going to do some analysis on those messages. And so let's do it. So now on November 10th, after news organizations had projected Joe Biden the winner based on state vote totals, Thomas had wrote Mark Meadows, quote, "Help this great president stand firm. Mark, you are the leader. With him, with him who is standing for America's constitutional governments at the precipice, the majority knows Biden and the left is attempting the greatest heist of our history." Now, of course, let me just start there by saying that is projection. It is actually Republicans that were attempting this heist. The Green Bay sweep, of course, was to try to take the legitimate election of Joe Biden and reverse it and give Donald Trump the presidency. But anyway, let's move on. Meadows wrote back to Thomas on November 24th, quote, "This is a fight of good versus evil. Evil always looks like the victor until the King of Kings triumphs." So there's some religious fundamentalism in there. "Do not grow weary in well-doing. The fight continues. I have staked my career on it. Well, at least my time in D.C. on it." Thomas replied, "Thank you. Needed that. This plus a conversation with my best friend just now. I will try to keep holding on. America is worth it." So look, I think it's important to point out like how they're viewing this. These are, again, private messages that were released to the January 6th committee by Mark Meadows shortly, of course, before he stopped cooperating with the J6 committee. Now, the framing here is good versus evil. Understand, it's not just about Democrats versus Republicans. It's not about like, oh, I think I believe in tax cuts for the rich and less regulation for corporations. No, they're not fighting about this. So you understand, like, this is where some on the left are like, no, you don't understand. The only differences that we have here are, corporations, and that's the real difference here. The role of government and tax. No. For them, this is literally a battle between Jesus and Satan. That's what it is. And of course, she's a lunatic. She's a QAnon supporter, and it shows you in this. Okay, and so the reason, of course, that it's important to point that out is that there are people that believe in these nonsense conspiracy theories. You will not be able to reason with them when they literally think that you are Satan and that you are not only are you Satan, you're working with Satan or for Satan, and you're part of this plot to take over the planet and then enslave the children and drink their adrenochrome. That's what this is. They're way too far gone. You are not like going to reason with those people. All right. So, and of course, you believe in the QAnon conspiracy, you're going to believe in all sorts of other conspiracies. All right. So now, speaking of insane people with their conspiracies, here you have Thomas messaging Mark Meadows to talk about how she wants Kraken lawyer Sidney Powell to be the face of Donald Trump's legal team. So look, Sidney Powell, she did not have a Kraken. She had a floppy dead fish, and basically had said all sorts of insane defamatory things against Dominion and Smartmatic. And so, the goes to Hugo Chavez. They created the software. They steal the election. Bonkers stuff. But again, Ginny Thomas is bonkers, and that's obvious. But that's not really the big story here, her being insane. I think we already kind of knew that. But no, the real story is about how she had access to Trump's inner circle, not just Mark Meadows, and was trying to use her influence in order to get this case to the Supreme Court, where again, not only use her influence, but there are people that were trying to use her influence as well, being married to Clarence Thomas, to get this in front of the Supreme Court. So, all right. Before I get to that, and understand that this is the goal of Trump. This was the goal of people around Trump after the election. We can get this overturned if we take it to the Supreme Court. In fact, here's Donald Trump talking on the morning after the election, telegraphing his plans.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it.
All right, so let me just be clear. They didn't find ballots. They just count the ballots that were already there. We're not like finding them in real time. No, they're counting them. Nonetheless, okay, we already won. We won this thing. No, you didn't. Very, very obvious. But anyway, he says, we're going to go to the Supreme Court. Well, guess who's on the Supreme Court? Virginia Thomas's husband. And not only that, but you also have Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, all of these people who were appointed by Donald Trump and who Trump and his loyalists believe owed Trump a favor. That's literally what they believe. Whether or not and we'll get to that, of course, some of the decisions on this. But Trump literally believed, I appointed them to the Supreme Court, so obviously they owe me. They owe me because I put them in that position. So of course they're going to have to overturn democracy and just give me the presidency because I want it. But now, Thomas, of course, publicly denied any conflict of interest between his wife's activism and his work, of course, on the Supreme Court. Here's what she said to the Washington Free Beacon, quote, Clarence doesn't discuss his work with me, and I don't involve him in my work. Now, does anybody believe that? No, I don't. I don't believe that. Look, I wouldn't believe that if it were a Democratic person, right? And the Democrat, of course, you talk about work. That's like half. Okay, obviously, in a marriage, half of what you talk about is what happened at work today. Okay, being married for over 10 years now, right? I know. I talk about work all the time. My wife talks about work all the time. All right. And so, like, that's just a conversation that comes up. I do not believe that Clarence Thomas does not discuss his work with his wife. You're kidding me. Now, as for Thomas doesn't speak very often. He's actually made very few public statements about the 2020 election. However, his actions speak louder than words. In February 2021, when the Supreme Court rejected these election challenges filed by Trump and his allies, Thomas wrote a dissent. Very, very rare. He said that it was, quote, baffling and inexplicable that the majority had decided against hearing these cases, these challenges to the 2020 election. Interesting. Very, very interesting. You know what it sounds like? Conflict of interest. All right, there's more. Here's another interesting thing that we get from these messages. Meadows, turns out, might not be Thomas's only contact inside the Trump White House, at least that week. On November 13th, she texted Meadows about her outreach to Jared, potentially a reference to Jared Kushner. Now, that's, of course, Donald Trump's son-in-law and senior White House advisor, again, within the Trump inner circle. Here's what she wrote. Just forwarded to your Gmail an email I sent to Jared this AM. Sidney Powell and improved coordination on how now will help the cavalry come. Fraud exposed and America saved. Interesting. The messages provided by the House Select Committee do not show response by Meadows, and Kushner, of course, did not respond to a request for comment. On November 19th, Thomas also at one point offered Meadows advice on managing West Wing staff, Suggestion, you need to buck up your team on the inside. Mark, the lower level insiders are scared. How would she know that? Fearful or sending out signals of hopelessness versus an awareness of the existential threat to America right now. You can buck them up, strengthen their spirits. And on January 10th, 4 days after the Stop the Steal rally Thomas was at, she had attended, and the attack on the Capitol, which she didn't take part in the actual attack on the Capitol, but she was at the Stop the Steal rally. In that message, Thomas expressed support for Meadows and for Trump, and directed anger at Vice President Mike Pence, who had refused, of course, to block the congressional certification of Biden's victory. Quote, "We are living through what feels like the end of America," Thomas wrote to Meadows. "Most of us are disgusted with the VP and are in listening mode to see where to fight with our teams. Those who attacked the Capitol are not representative of our great teams of patriots for DJT." Of course, they actually are. Yes, I think they are representative. Those are the people, again, who actually did walk down to Pennsylvania Avenue, whereas Donald Trump fucked off to the bunker and went and hid and watched the chaos unfold. By the way, he did not try to stop that chaos. That's very important too. He watched it unfold on TV, and it took him hours. And, we saw the exchanges. I've talked about them before. You even had Sean Hannity being like, Donald, do something. You got to do something. Trump is going to make us look really, really, really bad. Really bad. You got to do something. And it's not just him. You had numerous people that were begging Trump, please, for God's sakes, do something. Do something. And Trump's like, no, I don't feel like doing something. And then, of course, when he finally got enough pressure to go out and talk to them, what did he say? He said, "You're very special. I love you. You're very special. You're tremendous people. But you need to go home, and you need to go home in peace. That's what you need to do, okay? But I love you." I mean, again, this is how he felt about this. He loved this. So it's absolutely representative of Donald Trump and a lot of his followers. And you know from these court cases as well against the January 6th rioters that they were proud to be there. They were proud to be there. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm on the steps. I'm taking over the Capitol. We took over the Capitol building. You have live streamers in there. Right-wingers that are like, I'm proud to be here. This is great. And then later on, they're like, what? No, me? No, it was secret Antifa. It was the FBI. Insane. So, now look. Here she said this too, quote, at the end, "Amazing times, the end of liberty." No. The end of liberty would have been if you had actually succeeded in taking over the presidency. Again, you didn't win the election. Yeah, of course you would have been upset about that, but that wouldn't have been the end of democracy. This would have been the end of democracy, the actual end of liberty. If the Republicans just decided, we're going to take power, and they were successful. But again, you want to tell me that Clarence Thomas had no idea what his wife was doing at this time? That they didn't talk about this, they didn't talk about work, didn't talk about the election? Now, of course, I'm speculating here. I'm honest about that. I don't have any proof. But you don't think they talked about this at all? I doubt it very much. I think he knew about the efforts, and I think he was in some quiet support of those efforts. And if that is the case, if you're on the Supreme Court and you support an effort to overturn an election, knowing that there is no legal constitutional vehicle for doing that, and not only that, but dissenting to the majority, not wanting to hear cases, well, again, it's very rare for Justice Thomas to dissent, much less say anything. And yet here he is. And it's also worth noting that Thomas was a lone dissent when the SCOTUS authorized the National Archives to release documentation to the January 6th committee. Those documents showed fake electors in battleground states. They had certified even for Trump, even though Trump did not win those states. They used, some of them, the official state seal. And we're saying, oh, yeah, no, Donald Trump won the election. He was the only person to dissent on that. The only person. Gee, I wonder why. I mean, he never explained why. Never explained. Now, another point here is that it's important to note that she is a member of many different right-wing groups. Generally, I generally wouldn't have a problem with that. Or you're a member of a right-wing group, who cares, right? Now, the thing is, not so much that she wanted to join these groups. The problem is why they wanted her to join them. A current member of the Conservative Action Project who defended the January 6 rioters. And what happened, as well as Trump Inner Circle from the January 6 Select Committee, told journalist Jane Mayer, and this is on the condition of anonymity, quote, that Ginny Thomas is part of the group not because of her qualifications, but because simply she is married to Clarence, a Supreme Court justice. The member had asked to have his name withheld because he said that Ginny is volatile and becomes edgy when challenged. No kidding. He added the best word to describe her is tribal. Well, insane. You're either part of the group or you're the enemy. And we definitely have seen that. And again, that's some of the texts that we've seen. At the very least, Clarence Thomas needs to recuse himself from anything related to this. I would like for him to resign, simply put. And, I don't know, for Merrick Garland, maybe to start looking into this a little bit. As well as, of course, Mo Brooks being asked by Donald Trump, because this is clearly a conspiracy, immediately to remove Joe Biden from the White House and immediately put Trump back into the White House and hold a special election. Now, is Merrick Garland going to do something about this? Is he? I'll believe it when I see it. But I would love to see something. Somebody be held accountable for all of this. Because it wasn't just Donald Trump. There was a lot of other people that were involved. Even up to the highest points of the highest court in the land. They got to do something. Okay. Yeah, no consequences for the Supreme Court. Absolutely. Speaking of consequences, there is some. There is some. It appears the saga of Representative Jeff Fortenberry is over. Apparently, he just got convicted of taking illegal bribes. Ah, yes. A federal jury on Thursday convicted the pro-Trump Republican on 3 felony counts for lying to federal investigators about illegal campaign contributions from a foreign billionaire. So now these charges stem from a 2016 fundraiser held in Glendale, California, for Fortenberry's re-election. There, he received donations totaling about $30,000 from Gilbert Shaguri, a wealthy Nigerian business executive of Lebanese descent, who, by the way, lives in Paris, who used other people as basically straw contributors. So he was making straw donations because, again, people who are foreign nationals cannot actually give money directly to politicians and to candidates running for federal office. And so it's illegal to do that. And it's also illegal to do these straw purchases to disguise a donor's identity through third-party contributions. So and let me just stop there. We actually have some rules for campaign donations. We don't have many, that's for sure. But we have some. Now, the amazing thing that strikes me about this is that even though we have so few rules, This is one of the ones that are on the books, that are still on the books, and you have people that violate that. Even though it's so incredibly easy to get gigantic donor money. But no. I mean, he went and broke this. How stupid is he? Okay, so let me give you more details, right? Now, the week-long trial in Los Angeles concluded with a guilty verdict that was announced about 2 hours after deliberations. Wow. 2 hours of deliberations. Guilty. Done. Now, Fortenberry was convicted of 1 count of scheming to falsify and conceal material facts, 2 counts of making false statements to federal investigators. Each of the counts carries a maximum penalty of 5 years in federal prison. He's looking at a maximum of 15, though I doubt he'll get it. But Fortenberry said that he planned after the verdict to appeal, and his defense team argues that the authorities had used deceptive investigative tactics to indict the congressman. Fortenberry said that over 2 years ago, FBI agents had knocked on his door asking about the incident. He says, I told them everything. I told them everything, which is, by the way, everything that I didn't know because I didn't know anything. You didn't know who you received money from? Now, of course, later on they found out that that's not true. They had overwhelming evidence that he absolutely knew about this. Now, according to court documents, Chigori and his associates had ties to a nonprofit that had fought the persecution of Christians and other minorities in the Middle East. Okay, I don't have any issue with that. But what I do have issue with is them buying off politicians. Federal prosecutors said the trio sought to funnel money to politicians from less populous states because the contribution would be more noticeable to the politician and thereby would promote increased donor access. Look, you got to hand it to the guy. He knows how our system works. He says, all I have to do is just give this guy a boatload of money from the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, and then I get access. He knows how it works. Why can't anyone else admit that that's how it works? Mainstream media, cable news, why don't you admit that that's how it works? Not even the Supreme Court. Members of the Supreme Court can admit that that's how it works. But everybody knows. Everybody knows. Yes, you give money to a politician, and guess what? That buys you access. It does. All right. Now, an unnamed person who had hosted this fundraiser, Fortenberry, began cooperating with law enforcement in September 2016. About 2 years later, the individual told the congressman during a phone call that was recorded that the funds, quote, probably did come from Gilbert Chigori, the indictment states. Fortenberry, who did not know that the call was being recorded, did not file an amended Federal Election Commission report, according to court records. Now, understand that our laws here in this country for campaign finance are so ridiculous that all you had to do was to say, I got money from a foreign source. All you had to do was just put it on the records. Kind of like Paul Manafort, really. Yes, you're a foreign agent because you receive foreign money. Okay, but instead, he declined doing that and had asked the individual to host another fundraiser. Give me more of that money. I'll give you more access if you give me more money. That's how it works. Twice in 2019, investigators interviewed the congressman about those contributions while secretly recording him. With the recordings of which, according to reports by multiple outlets, were played during the trial, which is why it only took about 2 hours. According to the indictment, Fortenberry knowingly and willingly made materially false statements and representations to the FBI and IRS about the illegal donations. U.S. Attorney Tracy L. Wilkinson said in the statement on Thursday about the case, quote, after learning of illegal contributions to his campaign, the congressman repeatedly chose to conceal the violations of federal law to protect his job, his reputation, and his close associates. The lies in this case threatened the integrity of the American electoral system, whatever's left over of it, and were designed to prevent investigators from learning the true source of the campaign funds. When Chigori was caught making these illegal donations, he agreed to work with federal prosecutors in 2019 and paid a $1.8 million fine. So oh, look, if you're a rich person, if you're a billionaire, all you have to do is pay a fine. That's it. You're good. That means the laws, I mean, if you can pay to get out of something, well, then the law only applies to poor people. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. All right, now, there's more. The billionaire was also accused of making illegal contributions totaling $180,000 to 4 different U.S. political candidates. The money was funneled through 2 associates, court records show. One of them, Tufat Joseph Bakalani, gave $30,000 of Shigori's cash to an individual at a restaurant in L.A., who, along with others, later made campaign contributions to Fortenberry's re-election bid, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California. Bakalani paid a $90,000 fine and agreed to cooperate with investigators. Fortenberry, again, as I told you, said he had told everything that he knew to the FBI. And the charges brought against him, he said, were shock. Oh my God, I'm shocked and chagrined. I can't believe it. I can't believe they would come after me. I feel so personally betrayed, he said. We thought that we were trying to help. No, you were trying to get the monies. That's what it is. It's about to get the monies. The monies. That's all they care about is the monies. Throughout the trial, the congressman and attorneys accused federal agents of setting it up, asking the unnamed fundraiser host to feed Fortenberry information about the donation during their 10-minute call in 2018. Well, I mean, it's not a setup if you go and say, oh my God, I can't believe I got foreign money. I had no idea. I should do something about this. And then if you actually do something about it, but no. They also claimed bad reception. I couldn't remember the details because it was choppy. My phone was choppy. I couldn't hear what he was saying. It was a recorded call. I mean, seriously. Yeah. Of course, it's all a setup. It's all a setup. Yes, giving you the money and then making you lie about it. Sure. As I mentioned before, the funniest thing about this is that with all the legalized bribery in this country and how easy it is and how cheap politicians can be bought, that people still get in trouble with stuff like this. Again, Paul Manafort. I mean, I can only surmise that it's because they're so incredibly greedy that they believe they're above the law. Like, that they're untouchable. They're untouchable. So, I don't know. Now, 4 other Republicans got this money, including Mitt Romney, by the way. But nobody else but Fortenberry tried to hide it. So no, totally guilty, not very smart. And let me just, one more thing. I have to bring this up. Come on. That should be his mugshot. Got to be his mugshot. All right. Yeah, Jeff Fortenberry, strong families, strong communities, strong odor, and now very strong convictions. Okay, let's go to Ben Shapiro. Yeah, y'all love to see it. Ben Shapiro is now attempting to get his brand of conservative content into the kids' market. Interesting. He recently announced during a rant against Disney and LGBTQ plus people that his company, the Daily Wire, will now create kids' content in order to provide alternatives alternatives for parents that were fed up with woke Disney. Here's that rant.
When Disney gets political, when Disney decides that it is going to let itself be taken over by the LGBTQIA plus minus divided by a sign, little caret thingy, little squiggly that goes above the letters in Spanish group, when they decide that they're going to allow their company to be renormalized by the radical trans activists inside the company, they lose business. America's biggest corporations are being held hostage by the woke because they are cowards. They're absolute cowards. Bob Chapek took over for Bob Iger recently, and instead of being a CEO, namely looking at the shareholders and saying, listen, our job is to maximize their value, instead of saying to the members of the company who don't wish to do their jobs, either do your jobs or we will fire you, because all these people are cowards and they are manipulated by the people inside their company, the woke groups inside their company, combined with the power of the media that wishes to crap all over companies that do not repeat the ridiculous demands of the most radical base. We're not going to stand for corporate America catering to its wokest audience by interjecting itself in these battles. You want to play this game? The game works both ways. You want to remove the All-Star game from Georgia because you don't like a voter ID law that is less stringent than Delaware's? Fine. Then a lot of people are not going to watch MLB games. You want to inject yourself into LGBTQ politics in Florida or Texas? Well, fine. We're not going to watch Lightyear. I mean, like, this is going to have to be what people do. And by the way, if you want entertainment that's going to cater to your children, we're going to start making kids content over here at Daily Wire specifically so that you don't have to be catered to by companies that hate your guts and cater to the people who despise your values.
Is there anybody out there who whines more about wokeness than Ben Shapiro? I mean, honestly. Hey, Ben, newsflash. Doesn't affect you. Shut the fuck up. I mean, show me anybody who is actually harmed by any of this. Honestly, here's the thing. Nobody dies for more, inclusion of LGBTQ plus content on Disney. You know what does kill people? Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. The anti-trans Texas bill. That anti-trans, anti-gay bills kill children. Now, of course, they kill trans children, so you don't care about that. You don't care about that. No. But it does. It kills children, all right? They get bullied endlessly. In a lot of cases, end up, trigger warning, content warning here, they end up committing suicide. This is what the hateful bills, this is what the hateful rhetoric does. So don't tell me about how you care so much about children. No, you don't care about kids at all. You don't care about the most vulnerable children in this country. But this also, by the way, sends a message that bullying trans children and gay children is not only super okay, but it's totally encouraged. Oh yes, go ahead and do that. That's what Ben Shapiro wants. And what's funny is that there's not groups of gay and trans people out there going and kicking the shit out of cis straight people. That's not what's happening, but it is happening in reverse. And nobody wants either of that. But Ben Shapiro constantly goes out and acts like he's victimized just by seeing the fact that LGBTQ people exist. Now, about Disney, right? Now, look, the company's initial silence on Florida's Don't Say Gay bill inspired employees to, stage a walkout. That's fine. That's good. Now, Disney CEO's Bob Chapek issued a statement shortly after the walkouts, apologizing and saying, you needed to be a stronger ally in the fight for equal rights, and I let you down, and have changed your position. Now, here's the thing. That's all well and good, right? Sure. Come out and make good statements. That's fine. At the end of the day, however, Ben Shapiro, and by the way, Shapiro actually talks a little bit about this, but he gets it wrong, of course. Understand that Disney, look, they give a lot of money to Republican candidates. So they have a public face and they've got the private face. The public, of course, is trying to be, we're wholesome and we're welcoming and we want everybody here and, we want to appeal to the most amount of people. And of course, internally, they're like, give me the monies. We're a business and we exist to, give money to the executives, to the shareholders. We have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit. Now, the thing is that Ben Shapiro gets wrong is that, guess what? Appealing to other people, members of the LGBTQ community, is good for business. That means we have won the culture war on that issue. And that's something that makes Ben Shapiro cry. These right-wingers are so upset. They're so incredibly salty because they know that they lost the situation. And so that's why they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to make my own Disney. That's what I'm going to do. Disney is appealing to LGBTQ because there is no money in being openly bigoted in this country anymore, and that is really good. That is good to see. Now, most people in this country are fine with gay marriage. It doesn't affect their lives. There's no social harm of allowing people of the same sex to marry. And so Disney, of course, is reflecting the times. A lot of these corporations that they call woke, right? And that's, of course, their code word for anything that they don't like. Oh, these companies woke. Oh, they're so woke. I can't believe that they would actually appeal their market to people with money. No, look, Disney's just reflecting the times. If you wanted to really criticize Disney, and there is some damn good criticism of them, guess what? You could make the case that they're giving to Republicans, they're giving to hateful people, as I just mentioned, Republicans that are pushing these bills, but also they have terrible working conditions and low pay for like the people in their parks. And so those are real issues. But no. Ben Shapiro thinks, no, the real issue is the wokists. That's what it is. The wokists, the woke mobs, that's what they're doing, is that they're doing the woke ideology and they're spreading the gay. That's the real problem. No. Ben Shapiro doesn't care about working people, doesn't care about the average person. He cares about pushing the culture war. And as to his solution, if you want to create a conservative Disney, it's probably going to suck. I mean, sure, free market and all. I would say the free market has already chosen in this case, but go ahead and create your rival to Disney and just watch it get obliterated. Now, the other thing, of course, is that they're not doing this for the children. No, they say they're caring about the children. In reality, they're pushing their agenda, of course, and to make money, of course, and really to make conservative parents feel good about themselves, about their hatred. That's really what it's all about. So, hey, Ben, go ahead. Good luck. You're going to need it. All right. Doesn't woke just mean being a good human being? Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to do this actually. Hold on.
Wet ass P word.
Okay. All right. Now let's move on. Harry Potter author JK Rowling has a new ally in Russian President Vladimir Putin. Interesting. So now, in a recent speech, Putin invoked cancel culture. He said this, quote, "They canceled Joanne Rowling recently, the children's author. Her books are published all over the world just because she didn't satisfy the demands of gender rights," he said during a recent televised speech. "They are now trying to cancel our country. I'm talking about the progressive discrimination of everything to do with Russia." Oh, wait. Okay, so cancel culture, we're trying to cancel an entire country of Russia. Look, I've said before, some of the people have their hearts in the right place, by saying, okay, we're gonna, we're gonna pour out Russian vodka or do this and that, not buy this and that. Your heart's in the right place, but that's not gonna have any effect on Putin. And so, but I get it. And by the way, if you don't want to buy Russian-made things, you shouldn't buy Russian-made things. That's fair. That's fair. But here's the thing. This is not cancel culture. The whole thing's crazy. But what's funny is he says they're trying to cancel Russia when in reality, that's what Putin's doing to Ukraine. They're literally trying to cancel the entire country of Ukraine. In fact, here's what he said on this in a recent speech about Ukraine. Quote, Ukraine actually never had stable traditions of real statehood. So, Ukraine's not a real country. They should belong to Russia, and that's why we should invade it. I'm sorry, doing military operation. Well, I mean, if that's not cancel culture, I don't know what it is. So now, of course, he goes on to make some ridiculous comparisons here to him being treated by like the Nazis would treat them. Quote, we remember the footage when they were burning books. Yeah, you know what? There is footage of burning books. Guess who's burning them? Conservatives. Conservatives are burning the books. Those are the people, however, you are reaching out to with this whole talk of cancel culture. He said, it is impossible to imagine such a thing in our country, and we are insured against this thanks to our culture. And it's inseparable for us from our motherland, from Russia, where there is no place for ethnic intolerance, where for centuries representatives from dozens of ethnic groups have been living together. Yes, Putin, noted opponent of cancel culture, except of course when he canceled his political opponent. Or several political opponents. Or when he ordered the imprisonment of the band Pussy Riot. Remember them? March 3rd, 2012. Two of the group's members. Nadezhda, I have such a hard time with Russian names. Tola Konakova and Maria Alyakina were arrested and charged with hooliganism for, having a concert in a church. A third member, Yekaterina Stemetsevich, was arrested on March 16th. The three members were convicted of hooliganism motivated by religious hatred and were sentenced to 2 years of prison. That sounds like cancel culture. The group's lyrical themes include feminism, LGBT rights, opposition to Russian President Putin and his policies, and Putin's link to the leadership of the Russian Orthodox Church. Who, by the way, the leader of the Russian Orthodox Church had put out a sermon saying that the reason that they were invading Ukraine was because gay parades. Yeah, it sounds like cancel culture to me. But cancel culture against the left, against left-wingers, people fighting for LGBT rights. Now, here's the thing, right? JK Rowling is a transphobe. So she's not exactly in favor of trans rights. She despises trans people. She gets along with Putin in that regard. So now I'm trying to figure out, what are you doing? What is Putin doing? Why is he coming out and saying these things? And then it hits me, right? He's trying to appeal to the right wing in this country. He's using their same language. He's saying, hey, conservatives, I hate the same people you hate. I also do not like cancel culture. I hate the wokeists. No, really. Now, again, I think he's reaching out to conservatives here on culture war issues because, well, I mean, culture war issues, it's something that the right identifies with a lot. Now, the thing is, he's going to have a very hard, long, tough climb on that one because a lot of Republicans are surprisingly on the side of Ukrainians. According to a recent Pew Research poll, an overwhelming majority of the public, 85%, including similar shares of Republicans, 85%, and Democrats, 88%, favor maintaining strict economic sanctions on the Russian economy. About 6 in 10 Americans, 63% strongly favor stricter sanctions of their economy. Most Americans, however, they say, would oppose the U.S. taking military action, even if it risks a nuclear conflict with Russia. And so that's good. I also oppose taking military action. That's why I'm against a no-fly zone. A no-fly zone would mean direct conflict with Russia. It's not some magical shield that deflects planes. No, it means getting into a direct and a possibly eventual nuclear conflict with Russia, which would be bad for everyone. But I do understand why Zelensky and Ukrainians are asking for one, but that is something we cannot do. That is something we cannot give, right? Now, what is still terrifying, though, is that you have a third of Americans say that they would favor military action, even knowing that this could end up in a nuclear conflict. Comparable shares in both parties, 36% of Republicans, 35% of Democrats, say that they favor military action even if it risks a nuclear conflict, while 7 in 10 Americans, 69%, favor admitting thousands of Ukrainian refugees into the United States, including majorities of those in both parties. Democrats substantially more likely than Republicans to say this, 80% versus 57%. So honestly, the American people, even Republicans, the people that you're trying to, appeal to, are not in favor of you. And so I don't know what Putin's trying to do by saying, hey, that JK Rowling, no, she was right, cancel culture, and then they're trying to cancel me, so you shouldn't do that. Yeah, bad, very bad. But look, it's very obvious, it's very clear that the Russians are losing the propaganda war to the Ukrainians. And so Putin definitely miscalculated. I think he's pretty desperate. I think this is not turning out the way that he hoped that it would. And so on that, by the way, JK Rowling had responded to this. Here's what she said. Critiques of Western cancel culture are possibly not best made by those currently slaughtering civilians for the crime of resistance, or who jail and poison their critics, she wrote on Twitter. Oh, it hurts. You know why? Because, well, heartbreaking. The worst person in the world just made a great point. Broken clocks, right? J.K. Rowling, not my favorite person. In fact, terrible person. But in this case, she's right. Yikes. All right. Moving on. We got some regrets here. Not me personally. All right. Bit of a sad story, a little bit. Let's do it. A supporter of the Canadian Freedom Convoy that had terrorized residents in Ottawa is now feeling a little bit of remorse for his role. Now, in an interview with the CBC, Martin Joseph Engelhardt said that he had gotten involved in the convoy protests earlier this year, even though he actually never had a stance in the vaccine mandates. Okay, so then if you didn't have a stance, why get involved? Like, that's super weird, super sketchy. I don't know if I believe him. Because, okay, if you didn't have a stance, then why even get involved? That's super bizarre. Now, he says that he had started out helping the convoy by delivering fuel and laundry, as they had occupied major cities, including key bridges used as major trade routes. Now, soon after, however, he started donating more money, lots and lots of money. In fact, from January 28th to February 14th, bank statements provided to the CBC showed Engelhardt transferring thousands of dollars and had spent thousands more at a gas station near Coventry Road, where he was stationed for the majority of the protests. At the end of the day, he spent his entire life savings. Oops. And guess what? As a result, he is now living in an SUV. Engelhart is currently living out of his SUV, as he said his landlord kicked him out over his point of view concerning the protest. Engelhart tells CBC that he regrets that he now has nothing left, and that also the protests had disrupted life for so many Ottawa residents. Yes, this was nicknamed the honkening, because they would stay up all night honking their horns and keeping people awake. And they would also threaten people with masks, yell at them, sometimes doing assault. So yeah, there's some issues here. Okay. Now he said to the CBC, quote, "I would like to apologize to the people in Ottawa. I'm sorry. All I wanted to do was to help people." Help people what? What are you helping people do? Die of COVID? I mean, that's the purpose, right? The whole purpose of the protest. Well, I can't say the whole purpose, right? Because I think there are several different goals here. One was to attack the U.S. vaccine mandates for the truckers going across the border, okay, as a Canadian, and to attack vaccine mandates there and home. And so, okay, there's that. And then, of course, there was also the attacks on Justin Trudeau. I'm not a fan of Trudeau, but they essentially wanted him to resign, kick him out of office. And so now the thing about these protests, though, is that a lot of them, a lot of the funding, not all of it, of course, a large part did come from US-based right-wingers in the United States. And some of the organizers were neo-Nazis. Now, of course, not everybody who was part of this protest is a neo-Nazi. This guy, I don't think this guy's a neo-Nazi. But look, I think this guy's a low information person. I think he got sucked into the propaganda, and unfortunately for him, he lost everything. There's nothing left for him. Now, I'm not saying that you should feel super bad for him. You can if you want. I think he made his bed. I think he's going to have to lie in it. And sure, I think we can all agree that getting kicked out, and becoming homeless, that's not a good thing. That's a terrible thing. I don't want anybody to be homeless, right? But at the same time, nobody forced him to spend all of his money to give him up to these truckers. But at the same time, this is what happens when people get put into conspiracy theories. Like, he was duped. Unfortunately, it's the same thing that happens with cults. The people who are involved at the bottom, they end up with no money, sometimes no home, and maybe with someone else fucking their wife. That's usually what happens, at least more so in cult, but nonetheless, not a good ending for this guy. Maybe, hopefully, he'll learn something from this and can make a recovery, on the right side and not fall for this kind of bullshit again. That's really what I hope. I hope he'll learn from this, and I hope he'll become a better person and start making better decisions. Okay. One more story here. A recently leaked company email from the head of a private equity firm is outraging a lot of people online. While inflation is hitting a lot of Americans really, really hard at the pump and, of course, at the grocery store, executives like Wayne Pankratz are looking at this pain as an opportunity to exploit labor. In fact, there was an email here. We'll read some of it. He said, "Most of our employee base and potential employee base live paycheck to paycheck. Any increase in gas prices cuts into their disposable income." Now already, okay, if you're pointing out the problem, yes, those are serious problems. Maybe you could do something about this. Maybe increase your wages so that people are not living paycheck to paycheck. Well, wouldn't that be something, right? A great way to go. Now, is he going to go in that direction? No, of course not. He says this: as inflation continues to climb and gas prices continue to go up, that means more hours employees will need to work to maintain their current level of living. Again, horrible for us, especially considering how this inflation is mainly driven by corporate greed, as I've talked about before. I mean, they're using the inflation as an excuse to up their prices. Oh, the inflation, it's because there's too much government, spending on you. Yes. See, the government gave you too much money. They give you a $1,200 check and a $1,400 check and a $600 check. Then you got some unemployment benefits. Oh, the too much money spent on you, even though the billions and billions of dollars were given to corporations and trillions of dollars were given right to the banks in liquidity with the quantitative easing. They got all that money. That's why there's inflation, right? But these companies, they decide, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take advantage, never waste a crisis. We're going to raise our prices. Now, am I trying to imply that there's not a supply chain crisis? No, of course there is. Yes, a supply chain crisis driven by COVID. There's demand, of course, increased demand beyond what I think a lot of people were expecting so quickly. But here's the thing. These companies have, yes, raised their prices to reflect that supply, the increased price of supply, and then raised it even more. So, of course, that's how they're able to not only, do better during the supply chain, basically making us pay for that, passing down that cost to us, but then maintaining obscene levels of profit, increased levels of profit. And what they did is that, look, they had already taken all this government money that was given to them during COVID and bought back their stocks. That increases, of course, executive compensation, and they get paid even more and inflates the value of their stock. And so not only are they doing better in that regard when it comes to their pay, but again, using inflation as a way to raise their prices to increase their profits and shareholder dividends even more. So this is absolutely just obscene levels of corporate greed. So now the company that is doing this is American Finance Capital, that is based in Kansas City, Missouri, according to the company's LinkedIn page. Now, backed by Quilvest USA Private Equity, the firm operates 50 Applebee's restaurants and 67 Taco Bells in that region. Now, the email, which has been widely circulated on Twitter and Reddit, prompted an employee walkout in Lawrence, Missouri. So solidarity to those workers. An AFC spokesperson told the Kansas City Star that the message does not reflect the company's hiring practices. Applebee's said the same. Well, yeah, but that's a franchisee. I mean, that's what it is. There are more than 1,500 Applebee's restaurants across the country, most of them franchised to smaller companies that send 4% of their monthly gross sales to the publicly traded Dine Brands Corporation, which oversees some 1,700 IHOP restaurants, according to the company's most recent disclosure to their investors. The parent company delegates menu price and employee wage decisions to its franchises and is so profitable that it spent billions of dollars once again buying back its own stock. On a recent call to discuss the company's performance last year, an Applebee's executive said that despite the obvious ongoing labor challenges, first of all, there's no labor challenge, right? There's a wage challenge. You raise your wages, and then people will come work for you. But of course, you're going to see how this investor, what he believes was the problem, right? Now, on a recent call to discuss the company's performance last year, another Applebee's executive said that the company, despite these so-called challenges, they received more than 58,000 job applications on a single hiring day in February, surpassing the total number of applications last year. So they have no actual labor crisis. What they've done is that they've, taken what staff they have made them work even more. So you've got all these extra hours, and then would say, I can't believe we don't have any workers. You have to cut the benefits. You have to get rid of the benefits. You have to get rid of these things that are forcing, in our view, wages to go up. When in reality, it's not unemployment benefits that are forcing wages up. It's not the stimulus payments that are forcing wages up. No, it's the fact that workers are fed up. They worked their balls off during this COVID pandemic, and they had to deal with some of the worst customers, some of the worst working conditions, and then realized, oh, gee, maybe we can do better. Maybe they should pay us more for all that we do. But no. Here's what Pankratz says. Quote, since the federal government is no longer sending out stimulus checks or extra unemployment benefits, lack of money will force people back to work. And rising prices will put pressure on competitors, forcing them to lay people off. We all saw businesses hiring team members at $18 to $20 an hour. They will no longer be able to afford to do this. Now, understand that the minimum wage, if it had kept up with inflation and productivity, would be about $23 to $25 an hour. The minimum wage federally is $7.25. Think about that. They're not even able to pay or willing to pay workers what they should get paid based on, again, inflation and productivity. And of course, when you even talk about $15 an hour, like, oh, we can't do that. There's like a revulsion. They can't even say the word. They can't even say the word wage increase. But this is what they're doing. Aside from offering lower pay, Pankratz recommended that managers look out for struggling workers who may want more hours or a second job. Quote, do things to make sure you are the employer of choice. Get schedules completed early so they can plan their other job around yours. We're talking about people working 2 jobs just to barely get by. And he's like, make sure we fuck them over. Make sure we make the schedules to screw these people over so that we're the primary job. Yeah. Screw them over. And then said, most importantly, and I love this, this is a complete contradiction of the previous statement, have a culture and environment that will attract people. If you want to keep people, if you want to attract people, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it way wrong. And of course, that's the thing. That's why they immediately go to, and look, we haven't had stimulus checks. We should. We haven't had stimulus checks for months and months and months. We haven't had unemployment benefits for months and months and months. What is he talking about? We don't have any of those. And when they were given out, it wasn't enough. Nearly enough. I mean, look, if you're trying to get people to work for you, you are doing it wrong, buddy. Nobody's going to want to work there. Nobody. These guys are gross. These are vultures. See how much they hate labor in this country. See how much they hate regular, average working people. They can't wait to fuck you over. It's sick and disgusting, and unfortunately, it is promoted by our current system. It is our current system. All right. That's it. That's all I got for y'all today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Really, really, really appreciate it. Please like and share the stream. Very, very important. Let's see. Let's go to Twitch here. Give a shout out to some Twitch followers. SBloom85, thank you for resubbing with Prime. Appreciate that. 16 months. Occam's Taser, thank you for resubbing for 11 months. Rub-a-dub-dub, take my Amazon sub. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Tempo Dan, thank you for gifting 5 community subs. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's go to YouTube here for some super chats. I believe I have some. I just have to get them on the screen. So let me do that here. All right. So let's see. Let's go to today. Gabby Mathis says, oh, I'm sorry, that was yesterday. Just one today. Let's see. Madi Darno says, after 8 years of hard work, sweat, and tears today, I finally passed my doctoral dissertation. There's no understanding how much y'all helped me cope with anxiety, loneliness, and at times desperation. Love you all. Well, thank you. Well, thank you. I'm very, very happy with it for you. Congratulations. That is wonderful. And I'm glad that I had at least some small part in helping you get through that. That's amazing. I hope that you go on to continue to do amazing things. So, all right. So again, congratulations, Madi. Really, really awesome to hear. And thank you for that very, very kind $20. Appreciate that. All right. So that's it. Like and share the stream. Have a good weekend. And we'll see you back here next week. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you.
I will eat your ass. Get in a long tube with a bunch of dudes.
Clean coal, meaning they're taking out coal, they're gonna clean it.
Disappointed!
Sexual anarchy.
Obama.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.